And now, the Kill or Be Killed podcast with Damian Ross, founder and master instructor of the Self-Defense Company.
Hi, and welcome to part 2 of our time with Mike Mitchell. And this part we focus on how he got into West Point. The one thing you should know about Mike, he was a good student, not a great student. Wasn't a bad student either. He was above average for sure. Did okay on the SATs, but didn't have any great political connections in order to get the appointment. But you'll find out how he did it and realize that when it comes to things in our lives, they don't always go as planned. And Mike, at a very young age, took an initiative and created a solution that got him his got him his appointment. So thanks for coming back, and welcome to part 2 of the Kill or Be Killed podcast with my good friend, Mike Mitchell. Taxes. Well, let's go back. Let's start. Let's talk about your decision to go to West Point, and let's start from there. Because, there's a lot of kids, that I know, even, now that my son's a junior. And obviously, I coached Mike, and I've known Mike since he was very, 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 very little. I think first grade.
Since I was 7, yeah.
Yeah. So, I've known Mike a long time.
46 now.
Fuck me. Yeah, now it's we're kind of almost the same age, but we're not. It's the difference has shrunk.
Yes.
So that whole process and what, again, it's not a normal route for a kid to take. It's not an easy route to, get the appointment and get in. So what was that decision like? And, bring us back to a young Mike Mitchell.
So it's pretty funny. I think it's a decent story. I know you've heard it before, but, I was in 7th grade, and it was April, was spring break in New Jersey from school. And I really loved fishing, trout fishing at the time. And for anyone who knows New Jersey, that's prime trout stocking season. And so we had the week off from school, and my cousins were here from Boston. My uncle was in the Marine Corps, and they were going to drive back that day, and they had just stopped the Saddle River, and I needed to get down there and catch it. And so rode my bike over near your house where you were at the footbridge, and I was fishing under the footbridge and catching some trout. And my grandpa came and he picked me up, and he said, "We got to get in the car. We got to leave. We're going to drive to West Point with your cousins. They want to stop and see. Your uncle wants to see it on the way back to Boston." And I was furious.
Yeah, why do I have to go?
The fishing was very good. I was like, I do not want to go. The only way my grandfather got me in the car was he told me there was fishing up there. He told me I could bring all my fishing stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
And of course, what I didn't know is we drove up there, it was only an hour away.
Yeah.
And got on a bus, and we took a tour around Post during the day. And during the tour guide, explained how basically there's no tuition cost at West Point. Well, there is a tuition cost, but it's paid, and it kind of gets
right.
I like to say,
you don't have any out of pocket.
Now, what I like to say is I don't think it's a free education at all. You give up your, effectively 9 years of your freedom, and you certainly get a lot in exchange, and you get the better end of the deal at the end of the day. But anyway, so the tour guide mentioned, their cadets' parents buy them a Porsche because it's, they save so much money on paying the cost. So I was like, I was liking the tour, and I was like, maybe I can get a Porsche too. And so I asked my mom, my grandpa, and I was like, if I go here, can I get a Porsche? And they like, like, you're not going to go here. Sure. And my dad, when he got home, sure, you can get a Porsche if you go there, And so I was like, all right, 7th grade, I'm going to go there. And I developed a plan and I started learning more and more about it. And then, executed that plan throughout high school. And there's kind of just one more aspect of the story that I have to share with you, which is my guidance counselor in high school. When I met with her, as a female, I won't say her name, of course, but she was a good woman. But, told me, well, you're probably not going to get in there. You should look at other schools.
Did you look at other schools?
No.
That's awesome. Yes. Fuck you.
In fact, I applied to 2 colleges, to West Point and to Villanova, and I ended up getting in early admission to West Point. And a week later, Villanova accepted me, but I had already accepted at West Point.
Nice.
So that just, so I guess I did apply to one backup, but
which was a good school anyway.
Yeah, it was a great school, and definitely had better social life than West Point.
Tiny bit, because at least for the first year anyway.
Yeah, I got to spend time with friends who went there from Ridgewood during Army-Navy games when I was at West Point when they were playing in Philadelphia. So it was a fun school. And they got good education.
So what was your plan? So what were the steps that, in case someone is here, because you didn't have any political connections, right? I mean,
no.
Your dad was just he worked a regular white collar job. Your mom worked in the school.
He didn't have a college degree.
Right. So it's not like you're this senator's son.
Yeah.
Trying to get in. You're like a regular suburban middle class family. 2-income house, 3 kids, So
and
you weren't, sorry, not that you're smart and successful, but it wasn't like you were Goodwill Hunting.
Yeah, no,
right, so.
I worked. Yeah, no, I worked hard. Like I said, first thing I did was I learned as much as I could about West Point and what they were looking for, right? And then I kind of developed myself into that. And
so what were they looking for?
What they're looking for and what the Army is looking for, typically, whether you're a West Point cadet or whether you're a cadet at ASU's Army ROTC Sun Devil Battalion, where I taught for a year, which is a great program. And I want to say that Army ROTC is an outstanding way to get a commission as an officer, if that's your goal. And it's offered at so many different places. But what the Army's looking for in officers are scholars, athletes, and leaders, right? So scholars, that's pretty basic. That's your grades and your SAT, ACT scores. I know that whole standardized testing, like since 1993, is like, it's different. So I can't give any specifics on that, but like get the best grade you can. That's one thing. And so that kind of is the scholar piece, awards, honor society, that, any kind of like academic accolades.
Now,
right?
were you National Honor Society?
No, I don't think I can't. I don't think so. I did get a silver medal on the National Latin exam, if that counts for anything.
Still wear it, I bet.
Right. But, so getting those things, though, it's helpful, right? And then athlete, they're like physical fitness tests that you take like late in the admissions process, but more what they're looking are like, you an athlete, are you a varsity athlete, are you or like, is there something else athletically that you've achieved? That's a big thing, right? And that really comes from kind of the idea of General MacArthur. He was the superintendent of West Point, and he said and he basically, said, upon the fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds that upon other fields on other days will bear the fruits of victory. Obviously, what he's talking about, and then what that did is he made athletics mandatory for all cadets at West Point when he was superintendent. And the idea is, right, like athletic competition is one of the best ways to train for the battlefield.
Right.
Right. And so those are the other fields on other days will bear the fruits of victory. So, you know, and if you look, a lot of our famous officers, like, for example, one of the things I did to prepare for West Point, like, and when I was, so I think it was a sophomore, was when Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm happened, right? And then General Schwarzkopf and General Powell became.
I believe we were wrestling in Bloomfield.
Yes, we were.
I was Mike's wrestling coach, if you don't know, in high school. I was an assistant, and then I was a head coach. So I remember, who was it? Vinny Russo, I think, was reffing the match, and he said, "We're bombing Baghdad." Like, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Me too, because Josh came in and told me, and I was warming up in the, you know, and it was it's just one of those things in life that you remember, right? And we happened to be warming up for a varsity wrestling wrestling that night, and but you know, when I did a visit at West Point, and we're still on the athletic prong here,
right.
Which they played. General Schwarzkopf gave a speech to the Corps of Cadets that they played for me, and I read his book, and like, he became my hero, and I thought that was just amazing. So, I studied his life, I studied what he did, and you know, thought that I was thinking about being a doctor at that point, but kind of seeing Schwarzkopf's speech and reading his book made it, you know, and then meeting with the admissions office. They don't really want you to go there if you're the admissions office will deny this, but you know, the primary purpose is not to create doctors, right? Like, it's to create combat officers. And so, you know, I decided that's what I wanted to do. So so athletically, that's a big thing. One of the things you'll have to do is ultimately take the admissions fitness tests. And I don't know if those, I think they still are the same, but I'm not certain. Like, they're really weird. They're fitness things you usually won't do ever again.
Like what?
Like, one of the exercises when I took it, or one of the tests, was a kneeling basketball throw.
What?
And like, you know, everyone's like, well, this is to see if you could throw a grenade. Has nothing to do with that, right?
Yeah, because it's a two-handed throw, right? Or
right.
You're sitting and you're throwing with one hand.
No, it's a one hand. And
okay. All right.
I don't know why it was created. I don't know but it has nothing to do with a grenade, because a grenade is totally different when you throw it and here and balancing about. Anyway, so you have to do that, and it always helps to do well on that test. Leadership. That
when you say do well on that test, not necessarily the basketball throw, but the whole test,
the entire test, whatever it is today. I don't. It may be the same for all I know.
Right.
And in fact, like, there was a call recently for us to go up and, like, you know, referee it for students, but I wasn't able to go do that. It would have been interesting to see it, but
sure.
And then leadership is the final piece of what they're looking at, and that can be done a bunch of different ways. For me, you know, as the captain of the wrestling team for 2 years, and being a 4-year varsity wrestler, very helpful in my admissions process, right? So that helped me cover that athletic and leadership thing. But leadership's a broader category. So, for example, they used to, long ago, probably still do to some degree. Boys State was a big you got a lot of points on admissions being part of that.
Did you do that?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Eagle Scout, that actually was a huge
Yeah.
huge admissions bump for you. Student body president, student body government. There's a whole, leader in your church, leader in the community. There's just so many different ways to kind of crack that aspect of it. So the point is, I think that I would want to tell, I guess, kids who are considering this at this point in time is, one, if someone tells you you can't do it, don't listen to them. Number two is, student athlete leader. And, don't, if your true goal is to serve as a Army officer, then, don't just limit yourself to West Point. Don't, definitely look at the Army ROTC scholarships and things like that are available for you.
Right. There's like GI Bill and,
the GI Bill is a little different, but it's, let's put it this way.
Right.
If, we've got the student loan debt is a huge problem in America, right? And, not a ton of people can get an academic scholarship to college. Not a ton of people can get an athletic scholarship to college.
Right.
But I think whether you're enlisting in the military and using the GI Bill to pay for college, after your 3-year term of enlistment, whether you're going to West Point or get a 2, 3, or 4-year Army ROTC scholarship or a Navy ROTC or Air Force, then that is a far better way to pay for college, in my opinion, than student loans.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Now, you also needed a congressman recommendation.
So that's kind of, there's, ultimately a member of the House or the U.S. Senate, U.S. House of Representatives or U.S. Senate has to nominate you to go to an academy, whether it's West Point, the best service academy, or, the nation's 4th best academy, the Naval Academy. And so ultimately you're going to have to get that. And what most offices do is they have a panel of graduates like myself that'll review the applicants. They'll review. It's like a whole nother application.
I was going to say, that's not just, hey, when we got a second. So they got to do their due diligence. And that's a whole other, process. And, you write her a letter. How do you wind up?
Each member is different, they
have their own process.
I've done it once for a congressman here in Arizona. Yeah, they're similar, but they can all, I was going to do it for Senator McCain. It's a lot of time commitment.
Right.
And I didn't have the time. And then, so there's a lot of, they create boards and interviews. And so I'll just go to when I did it, my SAT score was not on the high end of West Point's admission rate, right? And so, one, I took a SAT course. I retook the SAT. I improved my score. And then I went to my congresswoman's,
Yeah, it was at Rockham, I think.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And I went down there and I wanted to make sure they had my updated SAT score.
Right, of course.
I'd already applied, and they said by walking in with that, at the time, right, there was no, you couldn't email it down there. I walked physically into the office. I gave it to someone. I met with the woman who was in charge of doing this stuff, and I want to make sure this is part of my file. And then I said,
you're better off walking it down now anyway, I think, for sure.
Well,
heck.
That's the second part of my story.
Right.
Is I said, by the way, is there anything I can do to help out in this office? And
nice.
they were like, what? I was like, yeah, no, I'd just like to see what this is like and help out. Can I volunteer here and do some work for you like once a week? And they were kind of like, I don't, we taught, and they're like, well, okay. So that was the beginning of my senior year.
Right.
And in that fall semester, I went down there every week, once a week, volunteered for about 2 hours, like clipping articles, reviewing articles, doing whatever they needed me to do. And they got to know me. And I think ultimately it did influence the fact that I ended up on the list, right? Like, well, here's the thing is, it kind of revived my application as in consideration. Right. But I actually got admitted before they came out with the nomination list.
Oh, no way.
There's one way. So if you apply early I don't know if this is still the case, but so you had to apply early, you had to have your stuff in December 15th. And January 15th was when you got the letter of, either you're accepted, rejected, or deferred to the regular admission cycle.
Right.
That last day, my letter arrived admitting me.
Oh, shit.
But that was before any senators or congresswomen had released their nomination list and made their nomination decisions. Wow. So the admissions office told me all I had to do at that point was take the admission letter down, and I would basically get a de facto nomination that wouldn't be charged to the congressman.
Right. So
at that point there was no reason for her not to kind of sign off on me.
Right, and that opened up another opportunity for somebody else.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, cool. So before, because we're running out of time, I'd like to thinking about those times. What was the most difficult and challenging part of going through that? And there's so much other stuff I want to cover with you, so we'll do this again for sure. Mm-hmm. But go through the point. I remember what you told me was difficult for you, but I want to see if you remember that. But the hardest thing about going through the academy, again, you're a guy who's close to his family, close to his parents, had a great, high school, experience for the most part, save a couple small instances. But, so it's tough to leave home and to get into that life. I mean, again, you were very, very, very close to your parents. So what was coming in, first experience, getting in there, you get dropped off, mom and dad say goodbye, sisters hug, and that's it. You go in, they close the gates, whatever the hell happens. What happens?
Well, I think now it's like nice and gentle and they're all kind to you. But, back in the day when the Corps was I'm kidding. But no, it's funny. Like, our family's obviously very close. And so, the two things that come to mind involve you and your brother.
Oh,
and it would be at the end of Beast, my first summer, because, what reorganization week is tough. It's basically you go through Beast Barracks for the summer, but during that time,
you say Beast. What is it?
It's basic training for basic training, right?
Right.
So it's the first 8 to 10 weeks summer,
right?
And the thing is, like, New Jersey graduations are in late June from high school, right? So I had to leave my friends 4 days.
Right.
We graduated. My recollection is like June 23rd. I had to report June 27th. So I had to leave my friends. They were all, having graduation parties and everything, and go up there and report and do like eight weeks of summer training or so. And, and Beast Barracks is strict. You don't get a lot of contact and everything. But there's 3 plebes, new cadets at the time, actually, and for every upperclassman. Right. So you outnumber the upperclassmen 3-1. But then when the rest of the upper class comes back in August, the week before school starts, which is called reorganization week, you get shuffled into a new company. You don't know, you're with a lot of new people. Your classmates are mostly new to you.
Right.
And then, you've got 3 times the amount of upperclassmen harassing you,
Right.
And you've got to move all your stuff, and it's a very, very stressful week. You're getting books, you've got to start classes. You don't know, what the academics are going to be like. It's a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. And so that was the week that, I struggled the most. And I remember being down in the barracks of Eisenhower Hall or Ike Barracks, and calling you, pretty much crying,
Yeah.
telling you I wanted to quit, and you wouldn't hear it, and you talked me up. Gave me a pep talk, and that's really what I needed at that point in time. I wasn't going to quit. I didn't do everything I had done since 7th grade to quit at that point in time.
Right.
But it was funnier. So I called you, and I'm like, okay, yeah. I'm okay. I'll be okay. Well, like, I think it was the next day, maybe it was a day or two later.
Right.
I get a call from Central Guard Room to come down there. And I'm like,
right.
I am like freaked out, because I'm like, that's only upper class. It's like,
right.
You don't get summoned there unless there's a problem. And I'm like, oh my, what did I do? Are they going to just throw me out? Like, I don't know what's,
right.
So I was scared to death. I come to the Central Guard Room, and your brother's in there.
I've never.
Like, he just walked into a cadet restricted area. And I thought, like, I didn't even know what to do. I walked in there. It was the last person I expected to see.
Right.
But at the same time, it kind of makes all the sense in the world. But
right.
like, I'm like, I don't like, are they going to throw me out because he walked in here? I don't know.
You know this knucklehead?
There was a captain standing in there, and multiple upperclassmen that were on guard duty. And I'm like, I don't know what. And they're like, do you know? And I'm like, yes, sir. And they're like, would you mind escort? It's okay. You can escort them out,
giving you the opportunity to talk.
They were very nice about it.
Yeah.
And like,
well, I'm guessing they know what's going on.
And I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
Well, Damien told me. Right. He's like, I want to make sure you were okay.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. So
again, they were very cool in letting that happen. Because normally the answer is like, no, you can't see him. Fuck you. But it's like, all right, I think this kid's like needs a little pat on the ass.
Yeah.
So would you escort him out? It's a very chill move to be like, yeah, dude, we get it. We've been there.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you need. So after that exchange, and then you say goodbye to my brother. And then what does the rest of it look like? Because you're almost now you're about to get into school, right?
Well, it's kind of really wild too. Like when you think about that whole situation compared to today, right?
Yeah.
1993. So that was July. It was August 1993.
Right.
I called you from a payphone.
Right.
In the basement. Right. That was my only way to communicate with friends and family, was a payphone in the basement.
I'm guessing they don't have access to cell phones now and shit like that.
Yeah, no, they do. As far as I know, they do. I think they do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't see how you could restrict it. It'd be so hard to
turn over your cell phone.
Restrict. No, because they're so small. They'd be hidden. People being so much.
You get caught, you get boosted, you get booted. I mean, it's like.
I'm sure.
If I go to a comedy club, I got to put my cell phone in a bag. So
I'm sure they don't have. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking they don't have them during plebe summer, but like during
when you're at regular school, of course.
Yeah. So, but then like I had that was the first like Windows computer I got issued like a week prior. I didn't even know how to use like email or chat.
Of course, no.
That was I learned that plebe year. And so it's not like I could email you guys. It's not like your brother could text me like, hey, I'm coming up.
Yeah, right.
To make sure you're okay. No, please don't come up to Central Guard.
Right, exactly. You're out of your fucking mind.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Don't throttle me. Dude, all right. So Very cool. So now you're going through the year starts. I remember you telling me one thing about marching. And I'm like, so why didn't you go like ranger school? We're talking about that, you know,
Oh,
nonsense. And you said something about marching. Do you
well, I
remember?
think there's two things with marching. Number one is I was terrible at marching in step. It took me a long time to learn to do it on the
Right.
parade,
And you
right?
would think that'd be one of the easiest. I can walk in line.
Right.
Oh, what the hell, right?
And and it is easy for most people. I just
Why? Why?
was rhythmically challenged
You were
when
talking about. You said you had short legs.
well, I think that was one, but it's so funny to the extent those parades are graded, and like so the training sergeant at one parade,
Oh no.
I was
Oh
so bad.
no.
He's like, "Why don't you just go to the library during the parade?"
Your parents could
I
come see
did
you there.
some homework, um, but no, yeah, the road marching that you're talking about,
Yeah.
right? So, it takes a long time to get used to, and I like, if you're shorter, like I
We
am,
are.
then you're taking double, triple the steps of someone who's like 6 feet tall,
Right.
right? So, you know, it's it took me a while to get used to that. My feet were ripped up pretty bad, and ultimately I got it, but and got much better at it. But yeah, that's probably that was one of the biggest challenges I had when I was becoming a soldier was okay, getting hang of the road march and everything else, and keeping up with the pace.
And then finally, when did you realize like, oh, I got this shit?
Yeah, well, that would be at air assault school when we did and so I was, I think, just before I became a cow, which is junior year. So
Okay. So the whole time, freshman,
12 miles,
sophomore, freshman,
12 miles
sophomore.
and three. What?
So I'm just saying, like when you say like freshman, sophomore into your
Yeah.
junior year, you're like, I don't know if I can fucking make it still. Right?
Yeah.
That was kind of rumbling around in your head. Obviously, a bunch of highs and lows, but it was never like the one moment like in the movies where, all right, that's it, I got this, and then you never turn back.
Right. Well, see, I knew I could do it, right? It was,
Right.
could I do it in the time a lot? Like the big challenge, right, is the standard kind of infantry road march, which is like 12 miles, I think it's 3 hours or 4 hours. I can't remember what the
Right.
time limit is, but you have to, and
How
that's
long? So how long
and
is it? How? So it's 3 miles and
12 miles,
12 miles and
in
how many
three
hours?
hours or 4 hours. I can't remember. So, it's either 3 or 4 miles an hour that you have to move, but you also
Right.
have, an over 50-pound rucksack on your back when you're
Right.
doing it. Right. And then, so, I'd been getting better, but that was a big test. And I did great at air assault school. But the last thing that you have to pass to get air assault is that road march.
Wow.
And we did it at Camp Smith, New York. And, the course was very, very challenging in that there was basically a mile straight uphill or more. And, I did well on the 4 mile ruck run and everything else. So I had a lot of confidence going in.
Mhm.
And being able to finish that, even though I finished, towards the end of just beat the time. I mean,
Right.
actually there was a captain that really, he was very significant in my making that because
Uh-huh.
he was marching along in safety, and I was towards the back with most of the shorter people. There were
Right.
some shorter guys like my buddy Matt who
Yeah.
never had a problem with it. They just
could do it.
were
Right.
good at road marching, and
Right.
and we're about the same size. He didn't have the and but then this captain, he just, for I'd say the last mile or two, he was just barking at me the whole time, and I appreciated all of it.
Right.
Like moving and everything, and cross that finish line. And then since then, I was good at road marching, but it was never my strength. So
Right.
Mhm.
You don't miss it.
No, definitely.
All right, man. Very cool. Well, dude, thanks for taking the time. Again,
that's why I went to tanks, right? Like,
right. It's a whole other freaking
instead of
conversation.
infantry. Yeah.
So, dude, we'll definitely do this again. Everybody, again, Mike, thanks for taking the time. Again, much appreciated. If you got a little trouble with the IRS and they're giving you some heat, check out Mike's email below. Reach out to him, even if you have some questions. He'll, help you point you in the right direction. Again, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen. Make sure to please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell with a mash. Please leave your comments and questions. We'll be more than happy to answer them. Again, Mike, thank you. Give my best to everybody.
All right. Same
All
as
right.
you.
Everybody, until next time, train honestly.